Many people know the city of York as a central part of railway history, with most people associating the city with the National Railway Museum. Over the centuries, there have been numerous industries and branch lines surrounding the city. One such branch line was the Derwent Valley Light Railway. The line opened in 1913 between Layerthorpe and Cliff Common, and served both the local community and various industries surrounding York. In the 1960s, the line slowly reduced in traffic, and towards the end of the 1970s, the railway put on steam specials, with the final services running on the 27th of September 1981. In the early 1990s, a group of volunteers reinstated 3/4 mile length of the line here at Merton Park. Since then, the railway has become home to a number of diesel shunter locomotives, many of which owe their history to York's industry. One such example is this Rowntree No.3. Built by the Ruston Hornsby company in 1960, this locomotive was one of the resident shunters at the Rowntree Chocolate factory in Clifton. The locomotive has been here since 2013, and I had the opportunity to speak to its owners, Tony and Glynnis, about this locomotive story.
Rowntrees were scrapping all their steam locomotives, which shunted everything, all the raw materials and everything from the main line all the way around the factory. And they were scrapping all the steam engines, so they were replacing them with diesels. Our locomotive, which arrived at Rowntree's factory in 1960, that did exactly the same work as what steam did. Obviously, they're a lot quicker to start than a steam engine. Then in 1980, it actually moved and went up to Forden at Newcastle.
Then in 1987, when it was now Rowntree and Macintosh, they decided that that was it. They were going to cease all rail operation within their factories. So they decided that they would donate certain items of stock to Heritage Railways, and the two locomotives that actually were at Forden actually were donated to the North Yorkshire Moors Railway. It went on to the NRM, the locomotion site at Shildon, to go on their display.
We actually took a day visit up there because we're railway enthusiasts. We had a day up there and had a look, and I said, oh, there's a Rowntree's loco outside, not knowing a few years later that it was going to be coming up for sale. And when it did come up for sale, my wife, I was actually barbecuing at home, and my wife saw it on a more like a text message on her phone, and she says, that loco, what we saw, that Rowntree's one, is up for sale for scrap value. So I said, well, how much money do we have in our savings? She says, you can't use that, that's for our pension. I said, no, how much money have we got? You know, we want to rescue it and get it back to York. Then it's back on York rails where it came from and started its original life. So we made some inquiries and everything, and we got it, we bought it.
September, I think it was, in 2013, on a very, very rainy day. We were stood watching this locomotive pushing our locomotive up this low loader, getting very, very wet through, taking all the photos. We were actually soaked to the skin, but very exciting. And it arrived here. You brought it off?
I brought it off. I used another loco to actually lower it off the low loader and what have you, and we thought, right, it's back on York rails now.
So we're more or less up to scratch with the history, unless you want to ask anything. She's been pretty good in the fact that, I'm going to touch wood here, yeah. There's only twice in service that she's actually broken down and had to be pulled out of service.
And one was just recent.
Yes.
Because it hasn't really been used a lot.
And we just had a fault and took it out.
We just had a little fault, and it was basically a bit of dirt in one of the air valves.
And it pulled out, and then...
We pulled it out of the service.
2 days later, yeah.
2 days later, it was all back to working again. Yeah.
The other one was a broken fan belt, and nobody had any tights because Tony asked.
Yes, I came up and asked on the platform, have you got any tights or nylons? So we've got broken fan belt. So we've actually replaced that now. Yeah.
We have the Normandy Veterans visit once a year. To come and have a buffet lunch, a ride on the train, and there was a gentleman called Ken Cooke, and he was a Rowntree's employee, or retired Rowntree's employee. After the Second World War had finished and he'd been demobbed, he got a job at Rowntree's, and he was the blacksmith on the Rowntree site, and the blacksmith shop was next to the loco sheds. So he used to use it to actually get around the site. If he was carrying his tools, he'd pop the tools on the running board and hitch a ride, save carrying his tools and save walking. And when he came for his visit that year, 2013 in October, and he saw this engine with Rowntree and Co Limited on, he said, I used to work there. So Tony said, would you like a cab ride? So he said, oh yes please. And it was only in a few yards of track.
Yeah.
So you started it, took him for a ride in between the passenger trains as he was the driver that day, and he actually shunted up and down a couple of times. He got off the engine with a very, very big smile on his face and said, look after my engine.
He actually tapped me on my shoulder and he said, look after my engine.
So every year when they came, where's my engine? Can I have a cab ride please? So he would get a cab ride. Again, a big beam on his face when he got off the loco. And one of our members here, he has a lot to do with the Normandy veterans, and he said to us in 2016, he said, I think you need to name your engine after Ken. Well, we've never thought of doing that, and the more we thought about it, thought, yeah, that's right, we need to do it. So 2016 we arranged for a nameplate. We got the symbol for the York Normandy Veterans, the logo, got the colouring off it, we sent it off to a company and had the nameplate made. And it was a Father's Day of 2016.
We hadn't told anybody what was happening. We just said something's going to happen when the Normandy veterans come up on their annual visit today, so it'd be nice if you come up to the station. But some actually saw me, because I'd already been down one evening, pre-drilled all the holes in the locomotive, and I'd got them all ready, so I knew exactly where to fit them. So I'd done that, and we'd got a red curtain over the...
red velvet curtain.
Red velvet curtain, okay, sorry. A red velvet curtain, and put that all over the nameplate as well, and did that.
At 1 o'clock, we asked everybody to come up. We're telling visitors in the morning, come up at 1 o'clock, there's something going to happen. There was some of his old work colleagues, some more Normandy veterans, family members came. Nobody knew what was actually going to take place. Ken came up with the rest of the veterans and the family, and he said, something's going on, where's my engine and where's Tony? And at this point Tony had taken the engine down past the signal box, so it was out of view. So we actually had a signal to let him know. It was whistle the other engine, so we blew the whistle for that, and then Tony starts driving up and Ken stood there. So then somebody shouted to everybody to be quiet, and I sort of made my spiel that get Ken out to the front here and with us, and would you like to draw this curtain back? And his face, it was such a picture. And I've never known Ken be so quiet, because he's a very chatty man. I mean, he's 95 now, and he's a really chatty man, and he was just so quiet. Yeah. And so after that it was a case of he had a cab ride, of course, and then a buffet lunch for all the veterans and the family there. So it was a lovely day, and I mean, there was people you looked in that were stood on the platform, they had tears in their eyes.
Yeah.
It was really exciting, wasn't it, to actually
it was.
To do that.
Yeah, it was a really good day.
So
it was, yeah.
Sadly he's not been this last year, but hopefully.
No, because of COVID and everything, we couldn't have anything like that.
But
hopefully this year, yes, he'll be back, and he'll be wanting his cab ride as well. I'm glad to say.
And then in 2016, late September, October time, we had a relaunch of the new livery.
Yes,
and
which is back to how it used to look in Rowntree's.
She'd never been painted since 1991, and that was at Middleton. So we had it all painted, got a professional sign writer in. We did all the painting ourselves.
You did most of the paint. She wouldn't let me do the top half because I'm
a bit slapdash.
Bit slapdash and paint runs and everything, so she wouldn't let me do the top half. I did the bottom half, like all the black and the red, but all the green, my wife did it all. I mean, we had to prepare it and grind everything down. The big part is getting all the rust out and everything else, so there's a lot of preparation work before you can actually start painting. But once we started painting, she was well away with it. Yeah. I was a passed out driver when our loco was actually fit to run. It passed its full fitness air exam. We had to have an air tank exam, hydraulic exam and everything. And that particular day, I was painting one of the signs on the side, which is Ruston Hornsby, and I was painting the red on it. And our running foreman of the day walked by and he says, Tony, I understand your locomotive has passed all its fitness to run and had all the certificates approved. I said, yep, it has. Oh, you might want to play with it later. I said, oh, it'd be lovely, yeah, it would. He went in, had a cup of tea, came out of the mess room and he said, haven't you got it started? It's going to be on the first train. Well, I was absolutely flabbergasted. So I said, yeah, okay, I'll stop painting and I'll go start, I'll get it all prepped and started. Well, it takes about 20 minutes roughly to charge all the air tanks up and everything. So as it was doing all that, I went to him and I said, you do realise I actually passed out to pull a passenger train. I'm only a trainee driver on this particular loco, on this particular type of loco. And he said, oh, we'll have to have some dummy runs to see how you do with it. So he drove our loco first because with him being the traction inspector, he hadn't actually done it with any passenger service on. So we didn't have a passengers in this at the time. We went down the track and went round and came back and did it a couple of times. He says, that's all right, now you go do it. And the next time it was a passenger train. I took it down with him watching me, acting as second man. He said, right, you've got your driver's card, pass it here. And that was it. I was passed out on the day. It actually started running passenger services.
Yes. So that was good because after 8 months of working on her, doing a major service, she got passed to run, started running, and Tony got passed out to driver. Yeah. So it was quite of a high. But then before all that, Tony had said to me, I've just volunteered you. I said, what for? He said, well, you're in charge of me at home, so why not be in charge of me here? So I've said, you're going to train as a guard, as a passenger guard. I said, oh, thanks very much.
Yes.
So I actually passed out as a guard before you because the training isn't as intense. So I'm actually a passenger guard at the railway as well.
And the guard is always in charge of the train. The driver isn't in charge, it's the guard, so she's still the boss. Whenever you are. Okay, right.
Tony always tells everybody that most people buy their wives a box of chocolate, but I bought
my wife a loco. You know, well, it is Rowntree's after all, you know.